Hello and welcome to a new game from CCC 11. The semifinals have just started and here are the standings after 4 games each. Komodo and Stockfish are in first positions as they managed to get a win against Leela and Leelenstein. Leela lost because of a one-move blunder again in Caro-Kann. And today I have Leela versus Leelenstein, their first encounter in these semifinals. And they played a King's Gambit accepted. The game started with e4, e5, and now we have f4, pawn takes, and knight f3, the King's Knight Gambit. h5. Here the main moves are g5 or even the shallop defense with knight f6. We've seen a couple of games already in these variations, but also in this h5 variation, which honestly doesn't seem to be that great for black, as I already covered 2 games in this opening, and in both of them white won, and in both of them the black king got stuck in the center. So here the game now continued with d4, and now after g5 we reached the end of the book. And here white's best move, and also the move that Leela played here, is h4, attacking g5, and after g4 white has knight g5, a move that in the first game that I covered, Dark Queen played for the first time, and this involves a piece sacrifice, but it looks like white gets a decisive game after that, as this king is in trouble. And in the first 2 games that I covered, this king got stuck in the center. In this one, as we'll see, it will manage to castle, but it won't help. Now, sorry for spoiling the result, but you already probably know the end result of this game. So here the game now continued with f6, and now we have bishop takes on f4. And in the first 2 games that I mentioned, and there should be a link in the upper right somewhere, both Laser and Komodo played here pawn takes on g5, so taking this piece. And now after bishop takes on g5, bishop e7 is pretty much forced. And now the game continued with queen d2, and then d6 was played by Laser, knight f6 by Komodo. In the end they both went down because this king got stuck in the center and it was attacked and so on. White won in both cases. Now instead of f takes on g5 here, Leelenstein tried something else and he played here d6 first. But now after bishop c4 there are threats here on f7, attacking the queen and the rook. And at this point, Leela already evaluates this position at plus 1.6. Leelenstein was even more pessimistic about his position, and he evaluated at plus 2.6. So a pretty grim position here for black. Now after bishop c4, we have finally pawn takes on g5. What else? Otherwise are the big troubles. Bishop takes on g5, bishop e7 forced, and now we have queen d2. And here Leela expected bishop g5, and then after h takes on g5, g3, but by transposition we get to that position anyway. We have first g3. The idea is to develop this bishop to g4. And now after knight c3 we have bishop g4, castles, and finally bishop takes on g5, pawn takes on g5, and now knight e7. And here Leela played rook f7, and she has a very simple idea here. She just wants to defend this rook from f1 and then play knight d5 and threaten mate on f6. And if this knight takes the knight, then after pawn takes on d5, the e file opens up and game over basically. So what can Leelenstein do here? Well, he played here knight d7, and now after rook f1 he played knight b6, not only covering the d5 square but also attacking this bishop on c4. We have now bishop back to d3. At this point knight d5 would still work, trying to open the e file, but Leela just calmly played here bishop d3, and now the game continued with queen d7, and it looks like Leelenstein will manage to castle long here. But now Leela just played g6, and after long castles she played queen g5. What a nice place for that queen, a very nice square here on g5, from where the queen is helping this pawn to go forward. G7 is coming soon, and there's not much to do here. We have rook e8, and now G7, king b8, and now knight e2. Going to pick these pawns up, especially the G3 pawn here is quite dangerous for white, as it keeps this white king in a mating net. So it's a good idea to get rid of it. It's a good practical choice. But we have now queen e6, and this now allowed Leela to go into some tactics which would allow her to promote this pawn. We have rook takes on e7, removing the knight, and now doesn't matter how Leelenstein recaptures, this pawn will promote. If the queen takes on e7, then she can already promote, because she will be up material. For example, if rook takes here, then this queen can be taken on e7. And of course, if the queen takes on g5, then the queen recaptures, and again Leela has a queen versus rook. So queen takes on e7, not that great, but now after rook takes on e7, which happened in the game, Leela continued with rook f8, just guarding this g8 square, helping this pawn go in, but she's also attacking this rook on f8. So we have rook takes, but now Leela has a second queen on the board. We have rook e8 blocking the check, and now queen to f6, going for a queen exchange, swapping a pair off, as she has plenty on the board left after that. But Leelenstein now avoided the trade, and he also took this pawn on a2. But pawns at this point don't matter that much. There are too many queens on the board. We have now knight takes on g3. Now this pawn, as I mentioned, is rather important. It's a good idea to take him out, as this king is in a mating net. But other than that, the other pawns don't count so much. We have queen takes on b2, and now king h2. And here Leelenstein played queen a1, a move that I'm not sure exactly what's the idea. Maybe it's just a waiting move, not very clear. And Leela just went for the win here. She played e5. She just wants to push this pawn up the board, promote it, and win. And if now Leelenstein takes on d4, then this pawn takes on d6, and it's hard to avoid now a queen exchange either on d4 or on d6. It's gonna happen. So instead of queen takes there, we have pawn takes on e5, but now Leela has a passed pawn, and she just wants to push it. We have now queen a2 blocking this pawn on e6, queen g6 attacking the rook, rook c8, queen g7, and now after bishop e6, Leela played here queen h6 to sorry about that, to attack the bishop. And she just wants to lift the blockade and then just push this pawn. We have now a5 and queen f6 hitting this bishop. Rook e8 could be played here, but Leelenstein played bishop d5, and now we have e6, and this pawn is going up the board. We have now h4, trying to muddy the waters a bit, knight e4, and now h3. Queen takes on h3, and now bishop c6. e7, push the pawn, bishop d7 hitting the queen, queen h4, bishop c6, and now knight c3. Hitting this knight, but also intending to attack this bishop. We have queen a3, and now knight e2, a4, and knight d4. So attacking this bishop, which is very important, as it defends the queening square on e8. So of course Leela wants to get rid of that bishop. We have bishop d7, knight f3, rook e8, and now knight e5, hitting this bishop again, which now has to go to c8. But now we have queen f7 hitting this rook, and the rook doesn't have squares. So instead of sacrificing this rook for this pawn, Leelenstein counterattacked this knight on e5. But of course at this point Leela is happy with winning an exchange, because now it's even easier to push this pawn in. We have queen g3 blocking the check, queen e6, and now queen f8, just getting out of the way, pushing this pawn up. We have a3, and now we have a third queen on the board. I never saw Leela have 3 queens on the board. I'm sure it happened, but I don't remember. And here Leelenstein avoided the queen trade again, hoping for something. And he played here queen d5, but at this point Leela already has a mate in 5. she could just simply take here on c7, and doesn't matter what Leelenstein does here. It's a mate nonetheless. If the king takes here, then there's queen f4 check, and the king doesn't have squares to go to, so the queen has to block. But now after queen e7 check, this queen is lost as it's pinned. Bishop d7, for example, queen takes, and then mate on f8. So the game could have lasted very few moves here, but we know Leela, of course. Here after queen d5, with Leelenstein avoiding the queen exchange, she played this very, very scary looking move, c3. And of course Leelenstein panicked, and he played here queen a5, defending this pawn, attacking this one. But from here on, the game of course is completely winning for white, even though the game still lasted for about 40 moves. But the outcome of the game didn't change, of course. And Leela even allowed here a queen, and then she exchanged one pair, and then she won a piece. And the game now continued for a lot more moves. She won a queen, and let's see now how the game ends. These moves are very logical. They don't require a commentary at this point. We have the king moving, and then we have a bishop sack and another bishop sack, but Leelenstein refuses to take the bishop, and mate will follow here shortly. Leela managed to hide these two pieces very nicely in the corner just to avoid any sort of stalemate. And here now, after a couple of more moves, we have finally mate on c2. So a very nice game in this King's Gambit variation with h5. I'm not sure this should be pushed so much by chess.com, as it seems a completely unbalanced opening at this point, with this sack here on g5. This looks very, very good for white. So I would honestly, I would just quite simply eliminate this opening from the tournament, together with the Grobs and other unbalanced openings. I would like to thank to everyone who donated to my channel, and to Rene, Adolf, Andre, Pavel, and everyone else. Visit the store and check out 2 of my other games on the right. Please subscribe, like, and share, and ring the bell to be notified of other games. Thanks for watching, and see you soon. Bye bye.